So, all right, guys, welcome to the Endure with Nick podcast. On today's episode, we have a guy I met along the way on a Vero Beach Octopus Ultra that we ran about a month ago now. So, uh, Dennis, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I know what you got first place in the was it the 50 mile,
Yeah.
right?
First, thank you for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, I got first place in the 50-mile race. It was my first 50-mile race. So it was, completing it was great. And then getting first place was like an extra bonus that, really, it was surprising to me, to be honest. I mean, I was going to be competitive, but I didn't really think I was going to get first place.
That's awesome, man. I mean, how long? I know we talk about like what got you into running? If you want to like just start there, like how'd you get into running?
So the way I got into running, I started running 6 years ago, and I was in a really bad place mentally and physically. I didn't. You know, it was July of 2019. By that time, I didn't exercise. I didn't eat properly. I didn't really do much. Uh, Anything that had to be with health and fitness. But I struggled with depression for many years and an addiction. So I think by that time I had almost a year clean in a battle with addiction for a while, and I relapsed. And after I relapsed, um, I reached a very low point spiritually, morally. I was just so disappointed with myself. I was so upset. I was really disgusted with myself. I just couldn't believe I couldn't reach that 1 year. Um, and after a few days, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know any runners. There's no runners in my family. I didn't even know about the running community, how big it was, or marathons. I didn't know anything about it. But just one morning, I woke up and for some odd reason, I just put my sneakers on and I just went for a run. And it was like my first time ever running, really like that. And I just went for a run. And I think internally I was so upset with myself and my life and everything that I kind of just wanted to run away from my life. And and that's how it started. I went for that run that morning. The next day I went for another run. And basically, I ran for the first 3 months straight, every single day, and that's how I got started.
Oh man, you mind me asking you what your drug of choice was?
Cocaine. Cocaine was the main issue, and obviously, I mean, I would do other stuff, but cocaine was um, the big problem.
Yeah. So when you first like you said you started running every day, like were you just doing like little jogs here and there? Like where how many miles were you what were you doing?
So I didn't have a watch, and like I said, I didn't know anything about running. Like I was
Mm.
a complete newbie, and I didn't have a watch. I mean, I didn't even have running shoes. Like I had regular sneakers. And the first time I went out, I remember I tried to run as fast as I could, but I got tired very quick. Like I don't think I made it to like a quarter mile or half a mile running, and then I walked. So what I would do, so what I did the next day is like I would walk like half a mile and then jog for like half a mile and then walk for half a mile. And then I did that for like a week. And then after that, I would like walk for like a quarter mile, jog for like a mile, and then walk for a quarter mile. And then I did that for another week. And then the following week, I remember I started just spreading it more and more, where after 3 months, I think I was like just jogging 3 miles a day. About 3 to 4 miles a day. I was just jogging. It would take, I'd do like about an hour runs. And that's how I worked myself gradually over time. And and it just ideas that just popped up in my head, like, oh, let me just try this way. I didn't really read about it or watch anything on social media or on the internet or anything like that. I just kind of went by, the way my body felt. And I think by the first year, I was running 5 miles a day or 6 times a day, 6 times a week. Sorry.
That's I know for me, I was a little what how I got into it. At work there was there's like a city employee step challenge. I want to say about 6, 7 years ago, and they said like, hey, the first like top five got a free entry to the Space Coast half marathon that we have up here. And I said to myself, I was like, all right, let me try to get into that, and ended up getting a free entry, and I ran my first half marathon, and it was slow, but for me, I felt that like, hey, this was something hard that I did, and I felt good about getting it done. And so after that point, I said to myself, let me just keep working and doing this every year. Let me try to do this once a year thing. And I want to say last year was the first time when I said, all right, let me do the full marathon, because I felt like I was avoiding the harder thing, just signing up for the half every year. And I said, screw it, let me finally do the full. I did the full, and I felt good that I was able to do that. And coming up this year, I was like, let me try to do something a little bit harder, and that's when I ended up signing up for the 50K. So, but I don't know. I finished, so I run at like a fat guy pace. So I ended up missing the cutoff for the kayak. I don't know if you remember that part in the second leg.
Yeah.
So I was short 2 miles for the 31 miles. So you know, the organizers, they're like, hey, you'll still get the medal for the mini ultra. So I ended up doing like 29 and a half miles when it got done. But
Mhm.
for me though, like there's a lot of, I mean, you remember the course, and it looks like you run down there a lot. There's a lot of like solitude running out there, and there's just something that I feel like mentally where like it gives me a break from everything else that's going on, and that like whatever you're going through is just like the only time where I can sit there and just like not think, and just do this hard thing that I'm trying to accomplish. And so for me, it ended up being, it's like it's really the only thing I do in my free time. I having having 3 kids, marriage, I'm kind of busy, especially working a lot. So my free time is either just running or working out, you know. So it it definitely helps me. Like I feel like if a week goes by and I don't run, I'm like, yeah, I'm hurting. Like I need to go run. I got to do something. So it's
Yeah, no, I,
definitely
I
this.
definitely understand that. I mean, I can't, I've been running for 6 years now, and I just, running is just part of my life now. Like, once I finished that first year, completed that first year running, it was my first year also being sober, and I felt so good, and I couldn't believe that I had finally reached 1 year clean after so many years of battling addiction and depression and anxiety. And so running did not only cure me from addiction, but it took away my depression, it took away my anxiety. I was also like diagnosed with PTSD and diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So I used to have like a lot of mood swings, and just running pretty much cured me from everything. So I felt so great that I just, at that point I made a decision that I was like, you know what, this has changed my life internally, that I'm making a promise to myself I will never stop doing this, because this is the only thing that has helped me after trying so many different things for so many years to, kick the addiction. And that was the only thing that worked. So yeah, I haven't stopped since then. I pretty much run 5 to 6 times a week. Um, but you were a lot more brave than me, and other runners too, because I didn't really find out about races until after 2 years of me running. I was just
Yeah.
out there running by myself, just you know, running for my health and my mental health and my fitness. And and then when I found out about races and I found out about watches and shoes, then I was like, oh shoot, let me start buying some shoes. And I bought some shoes, and then I bought a watch. And I started like, wow, like this is exciting. Like this is so much bigger than I thought. And then I found out about the races, the 5Ks and the 10Ks and the half marathons. But I was like, you know what? I don't, I was like, I'm not a professional runner. I'm like, what am I even going to join these races for? Like, I was doubting myself so much that I didn't really join my first race until about 2 years and a half into running.
Mm.
You know, I was like, one day I was like, you know what? Let me just do a 10K and let me just try it and go and just have fun. Like, let me just have fun and see what this whole thing is about. And I went and ran the 10K, and I ended up getting first place in my age group. And that was so surprising to me. I was like, what? I got a first place medal in my age group. I'm like, I thought it was so amazing. And I felt so great that from there I was stuck. Like I was hooked. And then I was like, all right, what's the next race? And the next race. And I just started joining 5Ks and 10Ks. And then I remember I did my first long run. I did my first long run of 8 miles. And then I was like, wow, I did 8 miles. And that was so amazing to me. Like, I thought I had reached the pinnacle of my running. I'm a freaking runner. Like, I ran eight
That makes sense.
miles. I was like bragging to my friends and stuff. They're like, wow, Dennis, that's pretty good. Um, so So that's how I gradually got into the races. But what the thing that I did that was really great for me, because once I did those 8 miles and then I did that 10K, I started asking myself, well, I never thought that I could ever do this. So what else am I capable of? And so at that point, I started having that, question. And it's like, what else can I do? How much further can I go? And then I started challenging myself every other month, like, let me go an extra mile, and I'll do like 9 miles. And then I was like, let me go an extra mile. And then I do 10 miles, and I just kept challenging myself and gradually increasing until one day I was like, you know what? This year I'm going to challenge myself. I'm going to do my first half marathon. And then I did my first half marathon and hit a PR I hit a PR, which that was great. I finished in 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Nice.
Uh, and I got first place in my age group again. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. People were like, wow, you're really fast. You're really good. So for the first time in my life, I was doing something that I was good at, and it made me feel really great. So from that point, I said, every year I'm going to set a bigger challenge. So then after I did the half marathon, I went and I set a bigger challenge and I went to run up Pikes Peak Mountain in Colorado. I have never
Nice.
run up a mountain, but I saw a lot of videos on it and I trained really hard and I went to run up Pikes Peak Mountain and it took me 5 hours, 14 miles. And that was so hard. That was like the hardest thing ever, but it was the most spiritual run of my life. That was like the most beautiful run ever.
Yeah, I bet it's beautiful out there.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then, the following year I did Uh, I did a Spartan race. Then I did my first marathon. I did the Miami Marathon last year. And then this year, I decided to do my first 50-mile race.
And you killed it, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you. Thank you. Now I have to go for that 100-mile race.
yeah, I mean, I feel that's what I keep, in my head. I feel the same way where it's like, what's how far can you push, your it's not so much your body, it's how far can you push your mind as to like doing the hard thing. And I keep seeing this quote, that people say where it's like, "Oh, what a privilege it is to choose to suffer." Like we get the opportunity to go out and to do something like this where it really tests your mental strength. Like how you mentioned when you're in Pikes Peak and it was like the most spiritual like run for you. That's how I felt going through the Vero Beach Ultra when like towards coming back the back end from the first leg and the second leg where it just felt like at that point everybody's kind of passing me because I'm like 260 pounds running on the sand. I didn't expect to run what like 13, 14 miles on the sand. And like it was a moment where I was alone for a little bit and you could just look out to the sunrise, like the water was flat on the beach. Like it just felt like God was just out there, like He was the only one out there watching what was going on, and it felt like a good mental peace. And then especially going through those trails where it's just like, all right, it's just you out here with nature, you know, and it felt like it gave me time to be grateful for like having the ability to like kind of go through and be able to go out and do these kind of things and just to say like, hey, I did it. I know for me there were some parts where I was like, man, I don't know if I can keep going. But I said to myself, I was like, let's finish the thing that we said we were gonna do. You know what I mean? Like wouldn't it be great to just go out and accomplish that thing that you signed up for and finish and then see like what you could do next? Like when I got done, uh I I finished. Cause what time? I think your 50 mile. You were what like 10 hours, I believe. What
10
was
hours
your
and
time?
14 minutes.
Yeah.
But
So
I would have done a sub 10. But what happened to me was that when I got to the island, I thought you had to go twice on the
oh,
island.
you
So
went
I actually did 2 extra miles.
dang, you
Did
did
two
two,
extra miles and
bro.
still came out first place.
You did 2 extra miles. What is your pace, man? That's
So the first 35 miles, my pace was between 8:40 and 9:15.
yeah, that's crazy. Man, that's one day, one day I want to be like you when I grow up, man.
Yeah, thank you, man. But like I'll tell you one thing, I trained really hard. When I signed up to this race in January, I had no idea that I could even do this. Like the most I had ran was 26 miles, and I had no idea. But it fell in July, which July is my anniversary for my, addiction recovery, right? So I was like, this is 6 years for me clean, and I want to celebrate doing something very hard. So I was searching and I found that race, and it fell in my anniversary month. So I signed up and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I have 6 months to train. So I trained hard. I mean, I trained for 6 months hard. Um, I was out there on that beach many times running that beach, those trails. I ran those trails many times. I mean, I was running so many miles the last 2 months and a half. I was literally in pain every single day. Every single day, I was waking up tired, fatigued, but I would just keep training because I wanted to give up many times. But I was like, you know what? I signed up to this, so I have to get to this start line. Like for me, it was not about getting to the finish line. I just had to get to that start line.
Yep.
Getting to the start line was already my accomplishment because the training was so hard. But when I was once I started the race, I had many strategies. Like I had the fueling strategy in place and I had the mental strategy in place because like you said, this is more mental than body, right? Because your body can be in pain and you
Mm-hmm.
can feel tired, right? But it doesn't mean that, that's it, you're done. You don't have any more juice. And I've learned that throughout the years of me running. There's actually a mantra that I would always say to myself is, you know, this is only pain, right? This is only pain. I'll just keep repeating myself like, this is only pain. It doesn't mean I'm done. Like, it's only pain. So, but once I started the race, what I did, I started thinking about the worst moments of my life. I
Mm-hmm.
started thinking about some of the hardest, but I did it right away when I was on that beach because I wanted to get ahead of the what they call a pain cave, right? I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
get ahead of it. So the way I did is I just like started causing myself a lot of mental pain. That my eyes even got watery. That's
Mm.
how much pain I started inflicting in my mind. That from that point on, when once we did the first half of the first arm, and we
Yeah,
had to turn around and get back on the sand. At that point, I started doing about 740 a mile,
it's
and
crazy.
I just started flying down the beach.
Mm.
And that's when I passed the two guys that were in front of me, and then I was basically leading the whole race for like the first 30 miles, right? Until I got to that island that I did it twice. And
Mm.
then three people passed me. But when they passed me, I just got back into my mental toughness and then I passed them again. Right. And then, well, I passed two of them. And then the one guy, which was the leader of the 100-mile race, he stayed in front of me.
Mm.
We were basically going at the same pace. So he was about a half a mile in front of me the whole time. So yeah, so that mental toughness is so crucial, and that's how once I inflicted all that mental pain in my mind, I kind of like it's like my soul went out of my body, and I no longer felt anything that was going on with my body. So the whole time, like the pain that whatever pain I was feeling, whatever fatigue I was feeling, I wasn't even aware of it because I only had one goal and it was to get to that finish line as fast as I could. And that was it, you know. And the hardest part was probably the last 5 miles. Once the last 5 miles, that's when I finally started feeling that pain
Mm.
increasing heavily. I would run and then walk a little bit, run. But I was doing like when I would run, I was doing about 9 minutes, 9 minute and a half miles
Yeah.
and then walk. And then the guy that was in second place, he was behind me. He was like probably half a mile or a quarter mile behind me. So once I realized that, I started pushing even harder. So once I got to like the last mile and a half, I took my vest off. I took everything off. And then I just started running even faster, man. When I was on that bridge, I hit a top speed of like 640 at the
Wow.
end of the race, you know? And I trained for that though. Like most of my runs, I always push the hardest the last half a mile to mile. Every run I do. So I train myself to always have that extra fuel in the tank at the end.
Yeah, I mean that's some deep stuff where you talk about like the pain and something I always say is like your body can't go where your mind hasn't been. Like if you don't think about going through that a certain kind of pain, like your body's gonna want to give up before you even get there. So it's like sometimes you gotta trick yourself and just say, hey, like you said, it's just pain. Like you just gotta go through
And
it. You're not. You're just pain. You're not injured. Like are you hurt or injured? Like you can get through it. Cramps. Something being tight or whatever. but it's like just getting through it. And but man, that's a 6 minute pace over the bridge at the end. Like that's a impressive, and that shows how much it's just it shows how much work you put in. Like you can see it. You know, the marathon is the public stage for the private work. So you definitely, I mean, now like I saw you hit like 20 miles yesterday or the day before, right? Like you
Yeah,
did,
I
yeah,
ran yesterday. I ran 20 miles. Yeah.
yeah. Like you're still going. So it's definitely it's respect, you know, from seeing the work that you put in. It's definitely not easy, and people, you know, people just see people winning a race and they're just like, oh wow, he's fast, but they don't know what you've been through to get to that point. And you know, when you were pretty transparent when you made the post about how you know you got first place and you're going through your relapse. And it was just like, man, like that's a hard thing, and it's very respectable that you're able to like talk about it. So it's big
Yeah, it's
respect to you.
taken me a while. Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's definitely taken me a while, because it's kind of it's a hard topic, right, to like talk about. One because you like emotionally might bring up a lot of memories and things like that. So I didn't talk about it for many years, but this year I decided to say something about it because I feel like I finally overcame it. Like for sure. Like there's no going back. Like, and that's why I train so hard. Like even though I'm not signed up for a race right now and I don't have no date, in my schedule, I
Hmm.
keep training because I'm not training for a race. I'm training for life. You
Yeah,
know, this is, I have to stay tough at all times because life has put me through a lot, right? I've been through so much since I was a kid, right? And from childhood, I've been facing nothing but struggles. In my teenage years, struggles, my young adulthood struggles. So my life's been tough, and life has given me so much hardship, so much pain that what I did now, I flipped it on life. Now I cause myself a lot of pain. I put myself through a lot of pain on a daily basis, right? Through my running and training. Like I work for Amazon. So I do 10-hour shifts and I'm running around for 10 hours in Amazon, with Amazon. And, like I work Saturdays, Sundays are very heavy work days. And then Monday, my rest day, my day off, I go for a long run. When I'm fatigued and tired and I don't feel like running, but I put myself through the pain because I'm not gonna let life ever give me pain that is worse than the pain I caused myself. So when life gives me pain, life gives me hardship, I can just go through it with a breeze.
yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely. That shows like good discipline. Like life's gonna be hard. You're gonna have challenges, but to be able to still say, hey, like, yeah, I'm tired. I still got to do the long run. You know, and it's those days where like you feel like you don't want to do it is I tell my wife like the days I don't want to do it is the day I need to do it. Like I
Exactly.
gotta
Yes.
set an
Yesterday,
alarm.
I was trying to. Sorry. Yeah. Yesterday, I was trying to convince myself,
Mm,
like, you know what? Because I like to start my long runs very early. I usually start my runs at like 5:45, 6 in the morning. Because it's cool. You don't need to worry about the heat. Plus, I have so much to do that I have to get my run done early. So I can do work from home and then go to do my regular job. But yesterday I tried to convince myself. I'm like, man, it's already late. It's gonna be really hot, and but my body and my discipline just didn't let me. It's like, nope.
mm-hmm.
But lace up, let's go. You're gonna suffer, but you're gonna be very happy at the end. And so, sure enough, I suffered. It was 92 degrees, felt like 107. Um, my body felt like it was overheating several times. That about two times I had to stop under a shade just to
Mm.
let my body cool down for about a minute because I thought I was gonna pass out. It was so hot, but I just kept going. I just keep going, keep going, keep going, and I felt great after. You always feel better after.
Yeah, you always feel good when it's done. I know you're talking about having a rough childhood. I don't know if you want to be able to touch on that, like talk about whatever you went through when you were younger.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of like the foundation to my struggles and addiction, right? Um, I grew up without a father. My father was never around, and my mother, she left when I was born in Honduras. So I was born in Honduras. My father was never around. My mom left when I was 5 years old. She came to the States. So my childhood was very unstable. I was always moving around from house to house, and when my mom came here, I moved with my grandparents from my father's side. Now my grandparents were alcoholics. They drank every day. You know, and my grandmother was an abusive alcoholic. So I went through a lot of abuse, physical and mental abuse, and you know I was always told that I was never gonna be anything, that I was a kid that was a loser, and I was never gonna amount to anything. And this was my own family telling me this, as a 5 and 6, 7 year old. They said that, I was so stupid that they even took me out of school. I actually never did first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, or
Oh
sixth
wow.
grade. Like I never did none of this schooling. Like I missed out on all that because they took me out. Um, finally, um, but that one thing that taught me was to having that tough childhood and being in that situation kind of taught me how to be resourceful because like I didn't have nobody. I had a lot of people around me, but they weren't really there for me. So I tried to run away from that house multiple times. I 6, 7 years old. I ran away, but they would always take me back to the house. But finally, when I was 9 years old, 9 and a half, one day my mom's um, brother showed up, said that he was going to take me to have dinner or something. And then he took me and never returned me. And
Mm.
then, he took me and then we went to airport and when I looked, it was my mom. I had 5 years without seeing my mom. So, you know, uh, seeing her made me so happy. And then, you know, she was like, they were like, hey, we're gonna take you to the United States, and we're gonna take you over there. We're gonna have a better life, and and everything. So it's tough. So then, she came back over here, and I stayed with my uncle. And I remember I would tell all my friends, in that neighborhood, like, hey, I'm gonna go to the United States, and I'm gonna have a better life over there. You know, and yeah, and sure enough, when I was 10 years old, I came here. But being not having a father and having to like do things like that, it made me tough. And everything they put me through there when I was 10 years old, I remember coming here and I would like think to my head, like, one day I'm gonna prove to them all that they were wrong, that, you know, that I will be somebody one day. And so, I, you know, got here and then I went through struggles here, because you come here and you don't know English and you go to these schools and kids would make fun of me and they would tell me all type of things and they would bully me and I would get jumped and beat up because I grew up in Hialeah and I in the borderline between Hialeah and Liberty City. So in the 90s there was
Yeah,
a lot
rough.
of gangs. a lot of gangs, a lot of drugs, and mind you, I started smoking cigarettes when I was 8 years old. And then the first time I got drunk, I was 8 years old too. So because I would see my alcohol.
Oh, lost you there. You hear me, Dennis? Oh,
Yeah, what happened there?
there you go. You froze for a second, but you good. You,
Okay. Yeah. Um, so it was tough, So that was another struggle. So like I left one struggle and then came to another struggle, and I would literally get jumped, man. Like I would be walking to school and group of kids would just start jumping me, and I didn't even know why.
mm,
Like, why are these people beating me up? And it would just happen every other day until one day I was getting beat up, and then this group of kids came and like started beating up those kids. And then they were like, hey, like they kind of saved me, right? And then they were like, hey, you're part of us now. And they were a gang, and I didn't know any better. So now I was here, you know, part of a gang, and I didn't even like ask for this.
mm,
And then, I started doing drugs. I started smoking weed when I was 11 years old. So like there's habits and there's like always seeking this mental high started from a very young age. And I was always seeking. The other issue was I was always seeking that father figure.
yeah.
So the leader of the gang became my father figure at that point because I didn't have nobody else. And my mom was working 2, 3 jobs. So I barely saw her. I barely saw her. And so I was always in the streets. I was always in the streets, smoking weed, drinking, smoking cigarettes. You know, in those years, you would have told me that at 41, I'll be doing a podcast with a police officer. I would not believe you.
Yeah.
you
Hey
know,
man,
and cool.
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, so but then when I was like 14, I gained a new father figure. And this guy, he was a lot older. He was like in his 40s, but he was my best friend's uncle.
Mm,
But I would hang out with him, but he would let me drink, right? I would drink in his house and his parties. They will always be there playing dominoes every day with friends and drinking, and they would let me drink, and I would drink, right? But he was like a father figure because he started teaching me like Dennis, this persona that you think you are, you're not. Because I was like a gangster, right? Baggy pants, you know, crazy hair, and I looked like a thug. And he's like, Dennis, this is not who you are. So by 16, he finally convinced me. And I cut my hair off, I tightened my pants up, changed my look, right? So like that was like like one step in my journey of becoming a better person, right? And so and then by 18, I read my first book. It was called The Lazy Man on His Way to Riches. And this my stepfather gave me that book. And in this book, I read a very interesting thing. It started with giving two examples: a kid with a good father and a kid with a bad father, and how their beliefs are molded, right? And it talked about how there's one kid, right, with a bad father. The kid comes into the garage while the father's working on something, and the kid would be like, "Hey, dad, can I help you?" And the father would be like, "Hey, you're bothering me. Leave me alone. Like you're in the way. Get out of here." Right now, the kid leaves, and the kid is like feeling like he's a bother. Like he bothers his father. He's no good. Like he leaves with these feelings. Now, the other example was, father's doing work in that garage. Kid comes in, "Father, can I help you?" And the father comes and gives him the most simple task. hey, grab this, put it together. And the kid does, comes and he does what the father said. And then the father's like, wow, what a great job. You did so good. Thank you so much for helping me. You're so good. Great work. Now the kid leaves feeling like, wow, I accomplished something. I felt so good, you know. So when I read that, I was like, damn, I got fucked.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can curse here, but
You good?
yeah,
Nah,
I was like, damn, I was screwed. Like, they
that's
put
good.
all these bad beliefs in my head.
Hmm.
And so that was my first realization of of the effect that I had in my environment. And I knew I wanted to change it. And I started creating this idea of the man I wanted to become. But from that time, it did not happen until now. It was just a journey, right? And but when I read that, and then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do better. So I started doing better. I started reading other books. I started trying to figure out how to rewire my mind. And then um, when I when I was like 21, that's when I started doing cocaine. I was introduced to cocaine, and I started doing cocaine. I had a, I met a girl, right? And we kind of like really liked each other. I felt like we fell in love, and she did cocaine pretty much every weekend.
Mm.
And so I started, I was in love with her, and I was going out with her, and I was like, all right. And so I started doing cocaine with her every weekend, and then we were together for a long time. We were together for 3 years, lived together and everything, moved in together. And when I was 23, I started my own business. I started my first business. I bought a truck, a 26-foot truck, and I got a contract with Carl's Furniture, which is like a fancy furniture store, right? And I got a contract with them, and I started my own business. And I was like, wow, I'm 23. And I felt so proud of myself because I was like, you see, my family was wrong, you know? Yeah, I am somebody. Like I could be somebody. And I did it by myself. Like nobody loaned me money. Like I hustled, and bought the truck and I was resourceful and I figured it out, right? But then I started making a lot of money. I
Mm.
started making a lot of money. And the bad thing was that I had all this pain and all these things from my childhood that was not healed. And then I had a girlfriend that, we did cocaine together. And then now I was making more money. So now I was buying more cocaine and doing a lot more cocaine. Now it was no more the weekends. Now it was like every other day that I started doing. And next thing it was every single day. Next thing it was I was doing it while I was working. So after like 8, 9 months of me having the business, I started spiraling down. Like I started becoming like worse and worse. Like I would go out with her and we would go home and she would go right to sleep. Like I don't know how she did it, but she would go right to sleep and I couldn't. I would leave the house to go buy more and stay up for days, go to work without any sleep. And that was pretty bad. And then one day I got into an accident in the truck. And well, let me back up a little bit. One day I got arrested. I got arrested for possession of cocaine
Mm.
when I had the business. And I got arrested for possession of cocaine. I was put into probation. And then I missed an appointment with my probation and they put a warrant for my arrest. And then one day I'm driving the truck. I get into an accident.
Ah.
I get into an accident and I'm like, I told my my employee, I was like, hey, I need you to get in the driver's seat. Otherwise, they're going to take me to jail. So he got into the driver's seat. Long story short, the company found out through the insurance that somebody else was driving the truck and that was a breach of the contract. So then I
Mm.
lost the contract. Now I'm addicted to cocaine. I lose the contract. And then after all that happens, one day I show up to the house and all my stuff is outside. And she kicks me out of the house. She's like, don't come back here no more. You're trouble. You lost the business. You can't help me no more. You know, because she had 3 kids also.
Mm.
And and uh and that broke my heart, man. Like losing the contract was like, all right, I'll figure something out. But
Yeah.
if she kicked me out and she didn't want nothing to do with me anymore, that destroyed me. That's when I put all my stuff in my pickup truck. And that's when all the pain from my childhood and all the things they told me from my childhood came right back. And all those thoughts, Dennis, you're gonna be a drug addict just like your father. You're gonna be an alcoholic just like everybody else. You're gonna be nobody. All that just came back. And that point is when I was like, I wanted to die, man. I felt like I had lost everything. I felt like there was no coming back from this. Like I had fucked up my life. There was no more hope. So I said, cocaine, you know, ruined my life. I said, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to die. I'm going to die. And that's it. This is over. And I was homeless for a year. Lived in my pickup truck for 3 months. And then they towed it away. And then I slept in the streets for 7 months. And I was in the city of Opalaka, Liberty City,
It's a high
and
crime. Yeah.
yeah, and and one day I ran out of money, and I was like just like so upset. I went into a dope house. I said I'm gonna rob them or they're gonna kill me. And I went in there and and they I tried to rob them, and there was about 15 people in there, all
Mm.
dope boys, and they beat me up to the point that I was unrecognizable. And then one guy grabbed me by the legs and started pulling me towards the back of the house. They were gonna kill me, and I didn't even fight them. I was like, "Let them kill me." I was like, "I don't care no more. I want to die." Like I was asking, like, "Please kill me." And this one girl came out of nowhere, and she's like, "You guys are crazy. Look at this guy. He can be a cop. Look at him. He can be a cop. You don't even know." And she started pushing everyone against me. She picked me up and threw me outside the house. And then I passed out and woke up in the hospital. And I was like, man, I was like, fuck, I cannot even get dying right.
Mm.
I was like, I cannot even get dying right, man. Like I'm that much of a loser. I cannot even die. And I just went off, man. I was in and out of jail for that year. It was tough, and I had lost all hope. I tried to kill myself several times and I couldn't succeed. I tried to overdose. I would just wake up in hospitals, nothing, you know. And and one day I was in jail and I was in Broward County Jail and they let me out. It was like 12 at night when they released me. And I was walking the streets, walking and walking and walking. This was another pivot point in my journey. I was walking and then after many hours, I saw this chair and a table in front of this store. So I just sat there and I passed out. I was so tired, I just fell asleep. And then in the morning, I hear, "What are you doing? What are you doing in front of my business?" And this guy wakes me up and he's like, "Man, right?" He's like, "What's wrong with you? Are you on drugs? Are you homeless? What are you doing in front of my business?" And I'm with a lot of shame. I looked at him. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm homeless. Yeah, I'm on drugs." And he's like, angry. "Are you hungry?" I'm like, yeah, I'm hungry. And the guy was the owner of the business. He picked me up. He's like, come inside. And the guy fed me. He said, he's like, I need you to do some work around here. I'm going to give you food and a couple dollars. So I helped him out in the store and he gave me a couple dollars and gave me food. And that was so surprising to me. I was like, who's this guy trying to help me?
Mm.
And then he set me, while we were started eating, he set me down and he's like, Dennis, I was exactly where you're at just 2 years ago. I had lost my business. I was addicted to cocaine, addicted to prostitutes. I was living in the streets of Fort Lauderdale, sleeping, in sidewalks. I had lost everything, but I got my life back. I got my business back, and you can do the same thing. And I was like, wow. And I couldn't believe it that I was looking at this businessman that looked so good, looked healthy and fit, and his business looked like it was doing really good. And was telling me the same exact things I was going through and I felt. And this guy brought hope to my life. This is the point where I started gaining hope again. And I was like, wow, I actually could get my life back. I actually could change things around. And then the guy was like, hey, I have an idea. How about you wash my customers' cars and that help you make some money, save up, and you get your place. And he's like, I got these AA meetings. I'm gonna send you these AA meetings and this and that. And he started helping me, man. This guy just started helping me randomly, and I started washing his customers' cars and things like that. And he gave me hope. He gave me hope. I was sleeping in his meter room, in the back of the building, and then that was a turning point. That's when I was like, all right, I'm gonna start working now. I'm gonna get out of the streets and I'm gonna get my life back. Um, and I stopped calling my family. My family and friends thought I was dead because they didn't hear from me for almost a year because I was in such a bad place that I just got away from everyone because I didn't want them to see me the way I was. I was I had so much shame. But one day I was, sleeping on the beach. I was sleeping on the beach and I got like $700 saved up. And I'm like, man, I'm like feeling good. Like I'm gonna get my life back. And I kind of doze off and then I open my eyes and I have a guy right on top of me with a knife on my neck.
Mm.
And the guy is just staring at me. And I look at this knife and I don't even get scared, man. Like I don't even get scared, nothing. I just look at him in his eyes. He's looking at me. And I think to myself, I said, well, I thought I was going to get my life back, but it looks like I'm finally going to die here. I said, oh, well, I was like, I guess I'm going to die. And I just kept looking at him. And then he just grabbed my bag and started running. And then I'm like, what the hell happened here? I'm like, I thought he was going to kill me. And then he's running and running. And I'm just laying down, like wondering, why didn't he kill me? And then I realized he took my $700. And I'm like, and I started running after that guy. I started running after him, running and running and running. But I see this one guy running towards me. And this guy is full of blood in his stomach. And he said, he robbed me. He stabbed me. So then I look at this guy, he's full of blood. I don't even see the other guy no more. And then I'm like, damn, the same guy that had the knife in my neck just stabbed this guy. And the guy's bleeding out. So
Mm.
then I picked up the guy and I started running towards the street with the guy. And I went to a payphone and I called 911. The police showed up, ambulance showed up, And the guy was like, man, if you would have called us just like 1 minute later, this guy would be dead. You saved his life. And
Well,
then they
man.
all leave. They all leave. And then I'm there with no money, full of somebody else's blood.
Mm,
And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? And and
yeah.
huh,
That's a lot, man.
at
You,
that
you're
point,
here for you're here for a bigger purpose.
yeah. And at that point, I was like, I need to get out of the streets, man. So I called my mom for the first time after a year. And she's like, wow, Dennis, you're alive. Like, we thought you were dead. I said,
Mm,
Mom, I said, I'm sorry, but I said, I don't want to be in the streets no more. I need help.
mm-hmm,
And yeah, she went and picked me up. They took me to a place. They got me up. They got me a efficiency where they let me stay for free for a couple of months until I got a job.
mm,
And that's, I started working really hard. Um, this was turning points, in my life. And I stayed clean for a few months, but then I would relapse. I would stay clean for like 5 months and then I would relapse. But I kept trying, man. And I didn't give up. And I just, kept pushing and then kept relapsing, kept started going to detox centers, different AA meetings, CA meetings, NA meetings. I started seeing a counselor, therapist, psychiatrist. That's when they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder, PTSD, dyslexia, depression. They were like, Dennis, I was pretty much what I was listening from them. I was like, Dennis, you're fucked. And, they were like, you need to get on medication and you're probably going to have to stay on medication for the rest of your life. And then I tried medication. And one day I woke up in jail
mm,
after trying getting on medication. I woke up in jail and I'm like, man, like I'm trying to do better. And it's nothing is working. But all this anger and all this pain was just accumulating and accumulating that I would cry every night. Just cry. And after crying for long hours, I would just be like, you know what? I'm not gonna give up. I'm just gonna keep fighting, man. I'm not gonna give up. And I'm gonna try again. And I just tried again. I just keep trying. I just keep trying. And nothing would help, man. Nothing would help. And after like 10 years of on and off battle with addiction, that's when I found running. And when I found running, running was the one thing that cured me from everything, man. And yeah, that was a long journey. But all that pain, man, just made me stronger. All that hardship made me strong. And and it made me a better person. I could have gone the other way. And I tried to, but life brought me back this way. As much as I wanted to go and stay in the dark and die, and just life kept bringing me back to the light.
mm.
And yeah, it's been a long journey, man. It's been a long journey.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you telling me your story there because I mean, even it's like you said from the when you were young, like environmentally, like you were fucked, and to be able to overcome, I mean, leaving one country, coming to another, and then getting caught up in the gangs with the kids, and even for me learning, just circling back when you're talking about that book with the dad, the two dads, and I'm learning that now with my kids where my daughter is 9 and I'm sitting here thinking everything is good, and then my wife's she tells me the other day, she's like, your daughter thinks you don't like her, and I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you always brush her off on something, and just those little moments where I'm thinking, hey, like she wants to do something, I'm like, I got to do something else, and I didn't realize what it was doing to her. Just trying to manage having all the other kids and still not, you have to put in the time, just a conscious effort of involving, a kid in something. And as someone that didn't have a dad, like same with me growing up, when you're younger, you need somebody to believe in you. Just that little moment where your stepdad comes and you have somebody that believes in you. It's just a little bit of hope you need, and like when a little bit about when I was after my mom had died, I ended up coming to Florida, living with my dad and my stepmom, and I graduated high school, going into the local community college, and it's about that time when I find out that he's been having an affair, with somebody else, and like my stepmom, she was like the closest thing to a mom I had, so I lost respect for him, and I didn't know. I was rebellious. I started smoking weed anytime they're out of town having parties, and I didn't know how to tell him I didn't want to live there anymore because I didn't respect him after seeing, all the shit he was putting her through. So one day they come home early, the house is trashed, there's weed everywhere. Uh, and I get a phone call saying, "Hey, if you don't come home now, don't come home." And I was like, "All right, I didn't want to come home." So, I took my car, I drove over to Orlando. I figured because all my friends were in college at the time at like UCF and stuff like that. So I started couch surfing at their places and their dorms. And then I was living in my car, for like over a month. And my wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time. Like she'd come over, give me some money. I would literally just try to live off McDonald's for like a week or two. And about, like I said, over a month of being homeless, yeah, I was like, it felt like it wasn't gonna be like I didn't want to keep doing this. And there was one day where I woke up, battery was dead in the car. I was like, fuck. I got the car jumped, but a couple of days later, I was staying at like my brother's friend's dorm because I knew he was over there. We didn't talk, but I knew he had friends over there too. And then I'm pretty sure, everybody knew where I was. And one day I wake up, the car is gone, car got towed. I think I parked it illegally somewhere, or my dad might have found it. And now I'm just like, I don't have a car, I don't have a place to stay. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And I told my girlfriend, I was like, hey, we got to tell your parents. Like, I can't keep doing this. And then at that point, her parents let me stay at their place for like a week. And then my dad came and he was like, "Hey, cut the bullshit. We're going home." And I was like, I don't want to go home. Like, I don't respect you anymore." And that's when he told me, he was like, "I wish you were dead instead of your mom." And then he said, "I'm not even your real dad." And I was like, "What the fuck?" So I told, I called one of my aunts on my mom's side, and I was like, "Hey, is this true?" And they ended up saying like, "Yeah, it's true. We just didn't know who was going to tell you." So I found
Wow.
out. I found out after being homeless for a little bit. 18 straight into adulthood, that my dad is not even my real dad. So it ever since, like, those moments where like you feel like, especially as like a man, you're like, we need like male mentors or somebody to help you go through what you don't know you're about to go through. So like even now, like I don't really talk to him, but I got 3 kids, and it's it's every day is like something new. Like you don't realize something that you're fucking up, or like something that you got to work on until somebody says something, and it's like, okay, like luckily, like my wife, she's great with talking to the kids and she can communicate with them. And when she told me, my daughter thinks I don't like her, I was like, what do you mean? Like, I love my kid, but I didn't realize I wasn't communicating that to her. So, it was just like one of those moments where I learned I got to be like, I get it, like, life's busy, but I'm like, I can't just brush her off because just that little, like the dad in the garage where it's like, I'm busy. I was doing that and I didn't realize what it was doing to her. And it's definitely like I don't want to do what it did, where it's like it plants that thing in their head where they're thinking, "Oh, I'm always a burden," and it's like you're never a burden. For me, I'm
Yeah,
learning. Yeah.
especially kids, they're their mind is developing, and all these things, they're so fragile mentally, right? So like anything that goes into their mind, can really leave some permanent, you know, problems, or some problems that may take a very long time to recover from, right?
Hmm.
But it's great that you at least you're open to it, right? Like you're open to listening to your wife, and to absorb, what she's saying, to make the change, right? uh, Early on, right? So just doing that, it's great progress, right? Doing that
Yeah.
is great, because you have other fathers that their ego is so high that they'll be like, probably tell the wife, "You don't know what you're talking about." Like, you got to be tough on them. Like they got to grow up to be tough. Like, I'll be tough and you be kind, right? Like, no, no, that's not how it is. It's not about
Yeah.
being tough or kind. It's just about being loving and compassionate and understanding, right? Uh, Especially
Yeah.
kids, like they're fragile, but they're very smart at the same time.
Hmm.
You so, but that was, like, I don't have kids, and I never wanted to have kids, and that's the main reason, because I felt like I was passed on so much garbage that I didn't want to pass on that to any kids, because I'm like, man, I don't want to have any kids and them go through like half of what I went through,
Yeah.
like not even a quarter of what I went through. I don't, if I have the, depression genes or anything, I don't want to pass that on to them. Like I don't like I never wanted to have kids because of that. Because I didn't ever wanted to be like my father. I was afraid that I'll be like my father, never around, never, you know. So
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of especially like, I mean, like you said, what, you're 41 now. Like, yeah, we're
everyone,
we're never we're never ending working on like how to be better. And like it wasn't until I want to say like three years ago I got in contact with my actual dad, and I got his number, called him, and I was just trying to figure out like so what happened. And he ended up he was cheating on his wife when he met my mom, and that's how I came about. And his whole he had a whole family that didn't know anything about me or her. I'm like, wow, that's great. So it was like I got two dads where they both aren't the best role models. So it's like I'm definitely trying to. I feel like I'm winging it sometimes, where any little thing on like YouTube or like a book or just something online where it's like, hey, you picking parts of like, all right, I want to learn from this person or like take advice from them, because like for me, like bloodline wise, it's hard to find, especially like you saying like with your dad, you don't want to end up like your dad. You want to be better. And especially like, for me having the kids, I'm just like I don't want to treat them how I felt, because there was times where I could feel I had an older brother, and like, we don't it's been about 15, 16 years, like we don't talk. And there's times where I felt like I was like, wow, I feel like they love me more, or they love him more than they love me. And it was just little moments where like you can like look back and reflect, and you're like, well, you can see why they would treat him different, because he's their actual kid and I'm not. And I don't ever want my kids to feel like I don't love them. So like they're for me, they're definitely like my why as to wanting to be better and do better. Just coming from that place. Uh, they like external motivators for me, and then part of it feels like it's like my heart. Like when I see them, because most of the time people tell you like I sound monotone. I don't show too much emotion on stuff, but my like literal heart is my kids, and they just keep me going. And it's just like I want to make sure they had a better childhood than what I had. Like I want to be there. Like I was 8 when my mom got killed, and I was 8, and I had a sister, my baby sister. She was 1 at the time, and when my daughter turned 8 and my son turned 1, and like it just gave me that moment of reflecting, just looking at them, where it's like, can you imagine looking at your kids at that age, knowing you're gonna die, and like you just want to live differently and like kind of live for them, and then like the next milestone for me, I know I feel like it's gonna hit me different when my mom was 40 when she was killed, and so I know like when I turn 40, I'm gonna like outlive my mama. That's crazy. Like there's little things people take for granted is like having your parents when you're older, and like when you're talking about when you saw your mom at the airport, man, I was like that was like after not seeing her, man, that choked me up. Like
Yeah.
it's tough, but like you need if you it sucks when you don't have a good parent, but like if you have one that loves you, man, it really helps get you through whatever you're going through.
No, for sure. But you know what I think, to be honest, I would not change anything about my life because because it has made me the person I am today. And
Hmm.
I'm very proud of the man I am today. You know, I don't have any bad habits. I don't drink. I don't party. Like all I do is work really hard uh, every day. And I work hard on myself every day, mainly on myself, um, because I found that that's really the most important work that you can do, right?
Yeah,
Uh, the work that you do, become a better person. So hardship is there, but it molds you to the person that you are, and to a better person, right? So
yeah, and definitely, I think and it helps like you you inadvertently become a role model. Like there's other people going through what you went through, and they just think like, I'm just gonna die out here. And but for if they can see you or see your story and then say like, hey, like I can get out of this, Like I try to tell people, I'm like, just because something bad happened to you when you were younger, environmentally, or if it's your own choice, you can get out of it, and you're definitely a walking, living, breathing testament of like, hey, like I mean, you made bad choices, you grew up in a bad environment, but like, you there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like you can definitely get out of it. You gotta want it. You just gotta make sure that you want it and put in the work to get out of it.
yeah, yeah, I agree. But I think there's something more than just wanting it, right? Because I think we all want it, right? Because I wanted to be different when I was 18, 19, 20, but I never did it. I wanted to be better at 27. Yeah, I'll do it for a little bit, but it was not long lasting. So wanting it, it's one thing. But I was thinking about this the other day, know, and I think you have to reach a spiritual rock bottom.
Yeah,
You have to reach spiritual rock bottom emotionally, spiritually, morally. You Because that was the one thing that happened different from every other time, 6 years ago. That when I did that last relapse, I just reached rock bottom spiritually. I was so disgusted with myself. I was just disappointed. And I've never felt that disappointed in myself before. And that was the change. It was reaching that rock bottom. It was not
hmm
reaching rock bottom financially because I reached many of those. And,
yeah,
financially, rock bottom, I reached those many times, but those were never the trigger or the motivation, right? To really push hard to be better. It was just that emotional rock bottom that really did it for me. And I think until we all don't reach that point that you just become so disgusted with yourself, you're not really going to make some real change in your life or have the drive to push through the hardship and the hard times until you are actually better, right? Uh,
yeah,
because, I mean, I was not. I was never into fitness, right? So, and for me to be where I'm at today and to have pushed through those first 3 months of running every single day because of that pain that I felt, it was not that, hey, I had a coach and a mentor, and they were like, running gives you endorphins and you become happier after you run. Like, I didn't even know about endorphins or exercise makes you happy. Like, I had no idea about this. It was just subconsciously, something internal wisdom or something, right? That
Right.
just drove me to this. And but I would have not been able to sustain those first 3 months of running every day if it wasn't because of that rock bottom that I had reached spiritually and morally. I remember I would cry every other run those first 3 months. I would literally cry while I was running. And now I realized that what I was doing then was I was cleansing my soul.
Mm.
I was cleansing my soul for those 3 months because I would run and cry while I ran. I'm a very emotional person, right? As you probably noticed already. But I would cry but I'll be out there and I just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And then after you see the rewards of your hard work, that's when you really like, you know what? I can't stop. Can't stop ever.
Hmm.
Ever.
Yeah, I love that, man. So, but God, that's deep. I appreciate you talking about it because it's definitely with the rock bottom. I tell people, like because the rock bottom is different for everybody. Like my rock bottom is different from your rock bottom, and just there's times where it's like, hey, like maybe that's what we need to get through to be like, all right, this is my low. I don't want to come back here, and like for me, it was that little like when I wasn't as homeless as you. Like I could only do it for a couple months, and I was just like, I can't do this. And then I ended up working construction with my father-in-law, and I was like, I don't want to do this. Like there's no, I want to do something else. Like I want to, I stopped smoking weed. I want to do better. I want to help people do the right thing, and like that ended up turning into wanting to be a cop. And then especially after like what happened with my mom, I said to myself like if not me, then who? Like I want to be there when something happens, when like somebody needs help. Like I just want to put myself in that situation to help somebody like not deal with what I went through. So it's definitely that like mental bottom where you said spiritually like we that's where you feel it. And for me that was just that it was 2000, 2010, 2011. Like I was just going through it and I was like I don't want to hit this low anymore. So
Yeah, exactly.
but
Exactly.
yeah.
Like it's like you can kind of get out of it and it's so dark. And, you're like, there's a quote I posted in the beginning of my running, with I think within that first year. And I said on that quote that I posted, I said, once you reach rock bottom spiritually, mentally, and financially, the only way from there is up.
Hmm.
The only way
Yeah.
there from there is up, you
Yeah.
know? And and what I did is I made rock bottom the strong foundation of my life, you
Yeah.
know. That became my strong foundation. It was a rock bottom.
We got to. I feel like I think we can end it on that note, man. That was deep. I mean, we went. I told you. You set me up there. You said we could keep going on and on, but I mean, hey, we did what, an hour and 20 minutes. I mean, it was a deep conversation, man. So I
Yeah.
love it. But Dennis, I appreciate you having you on, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me on here. And I think you're an amazing dude, man. You're doing a great job. So, very inspiring. And, to see how you turn your life around, it definitely, it's very inspiring. And I just, I wish you all the best, man. And hopefully one day we can go for a run.
For
You
sure,
know,
man.
Yeah.
I gotta. It'll be at fat guy pace. So I can't run at your pace. I need to cut some
It'll be a
weight.
recovery run for me.
Yeah, yeah. After you're a 100 miler, we'll do a recovery run. So
Sounds good, man.
awesome,
Thank you,
dude.
brother.
Thank you.
Have a great one.